Welcome back to American Agenda. The newly detected Omicron variant of the coronavirus is spreading across the globe with cases reported in almost a dozen countries now. But just how concerned should we be over this new strain?
Earlier, we spoke to physician and former researcher at the CDC, Dr. Richard Van Dam, and here is what he had to say regarding the new variant.
First, there's no problem so big that poor leadership can't make it worse. And this is what we're seeing here. It would be unwise to assume the Omicron variant is not a concern, which warrants precaution. It has 32 mutations on the spike protein, and it's estimated to be 500% more infectious than the Delta variant. But it'd be equally unwise to jump to the conclusion that we need mandates, lockdowns, more restrictions on the American people.
All right, let's bring in our panel for more reaction on all of this. Florida businessman, lawyer, and GOP strategist Ford O'Connell, and host of Money Talk with Melanie and Project 21 member Melanie Collette. You know, Ford and Melanie, you're among my favorite guests, and I never know who to start with because you're both my favorites. So I was going to flip a coin, but I don't have any coins. Who has coins anymore? So, Melanie, I'm going to go with you as a start and say, what's going on? Because I got to tell you, I've reached the point, I don't care. I don't care how many variants there are. I'm ready to get on with life, okay? You got vaccines, you got treatments. If you want to wear a mask, wear a mask. I've had it.
Bob, I'm 100% with you on that. I hear you. And listen, I think this is more about politics. They're politicizing each and every variant. They've politicized COVID from the beginning. And this is just more about control, keeping the population at large freaked out and afraid. And it's just about a control issue. And I think it's also about the midterms in 22, where they know that they're going to lose pretty horribly, I predict. So yeah. I think all of this has to do with that. And, you know, I am old enough to remember when bans like this were racist. When President Trump did it, it was super duper racist.
Yeah, now, a little over a year ago.
It's taking precautions.
Year and a half ago, it was racist. Ford, I mean, Melanie brings up an interesting thing, and that is the midterms coming up. And I think all along, Biden thought it was going to be a gimme, that he was going to be able to get this coronavirus under control. And then in the midterms, they would be strong for, you know, spending a lot of money we don't have. And I think the last thing on his mind was that this was still going to be a problem here in 2021 heading toward Christmas.
Well, I think you're absolutely right, Bob. And I'll say this. I think one of the biggest lies of the 2020 election was that Joe Biden had a solution for COVID, and now we know that he didn't. And when we look back at hindsight, we find out that Donald Trump did a pretty good job, handed Biden vaccines. And unfortunately, Biden has been incompetent on this because he doesn't understand that lockdowns are disastrous. You cannot control this virus, and the idea of zero COVID is a fantasy. And I think that that's why, primarily speaking, the Democrats are sounding the Armageddon alarm bells right now because of the head of the 2022 midterms. They want to distract from the president's failing economy. So that's exactly what's going on here. And when we step back and we look at the very little news that is not actually COVID fear porn, what we realize that in South Africa is the hospitals aren't filling up. This is a little bit more infectious, but life seems to be going on there as well.
I love what you said, Ford. You said zero COVID is a fantasy. I mean, I feel like we have to be grown-ups, Melanie. I don't want to say that this has no threat. I don't want to, you know, hundreds of thousands of people have died of COVID, but we've gotten to the point where we recognize the highest risks, and we do have treatments for it, and we do have vaccines. So it's kind of like zero flu is a fantasy. Zero COVID is a fantasy. And we go on with life knowing there's a flu. We go on with life knowing that there are all kinds of other maladies. And this seems to stop us now. I keep waiting at some point. People say, okay, you're on your own. The government's not going to take care of you.
Exactly. And it's a hypocrisy for me. You know, earlier today, Jen Psaki got up on the podium and said that President Biden never said that it was racist, that he wasn't talking about the actual ban that was racist. Only what she seems to forget is We can see all of those tweets. We can see everything that the president tweeted. We can see all of the video. Like, we're in the technology age. We can see exactly what he said. And he said that it was completely racist. But again, it's really just about trying to control people, keeping them freaked out. And it's also about increasing the vaccination. I'm not saying that vaccines are not good. I'm vaccinated myself.
I'm vaccinated.
Finally.
I'm vaccinated.
But,
yeah, I agree. I'm not anti-vaccine.
They're pushing it so very hard, it almost makes you think that they're getting a kickback, or that maybe somebody's donating to their campaign.
To me, the
Maybe
booster sounds a little bit like a moneymaker. But earlier today, let's listen to what Jen Psaki said when somebody asked him about the contradictions between what Mr. Biden was saying and what Mr. Trump did.
First, to put it in full context, Peter, what the president was critical of was the way that the former president put out, I believe, a xenophobic tweet and how he called what he called the coronavirus and who he directed it at. The president has not been critical of travel restrictions.
Yeah, Mercedes, how about you responding to this?
Well, you know, I just find it to be so hypocritical coming from the Biden White House, because Biden campaigned on this. He campaigned on the fact that these travel restrictions were racist, that ones that President Trump put in place. And let's remember, it was President Biden who also promised that we'd be out of this pandemic and that he would solve this issue. And quite frankly, they've only confused Americans on what to do. And I just think that the way he's talked about even the unvaccinated people, putting the blame on the unvaccinated people, is not helpful.
Yeah, blame the unvaccinated. That's his solution right now. We're going to take a break. Ford, Melanie, Mercedes and I will be back after this. Stand by.